Hey, kindergartners. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit more about solving story problems. The last time we met, we talked about how Allie took some of my cucumbers and I was left with not very many. And Adam showed the way that he solved his problem, and I showed the way that I solved the problem. There was a really big difference between our two solutions. We both got the same answer, which was great, but my way of solving showed how I got the answer, and we call that proving it. In math, we call that proving it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about another strategy that people use to prove their solutions. So last time was pictures and words, and today we're going to use an organizer. An organizer is really helpful to use when there's a lot going on in the problem, when there's too many words and you just need to know what the numbers are. You need to know what the facts are. And one of the organizers that you're already really familiar with is a number bond. So here's the number bond that we've been working with. At the top, we have the whole. That's the piece that we started out with. That's the total, the amount that we had once before. And then each of these bottoms are called parts. That's this whole broken up into two pieces. It's like taking the number 10 and saying 10 has 5, and it also has 5 more. So there's 2 parts to that number. At the bottom of this, we have equations. We have a couple of addition problems and we have a couple of subtraction problems. These are the ways that mathematicians put together these numbers to get their whole, or how they start out with a number and part of it gets taken away and then they're left with the other part. So today we're going to use this organizer to help us keep track of our problem that we have today. Are you ready to find out? I'll give you a clue. These guys are part of the problem. All right, so here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need a dry erase board and a marker, or just a piece of paper and a pencil, marker, pen, whatever you've got. You don't need to have colors like mine, but I'm going to be using these colors in mine to help us keep track of our solving. So I'm gonna put this up here while you're getting that. All right. So here is my wondering, or here is my problem today. I have a garden out front of my house and it has lots of tulips coming up in it. I was so excited to see this because this is one of our big signs of spring. And they even made it through that ginormous snow that we had this last couple days. So here is my vase of these tulips. Now, today I went out to cut them and I noticed that I had 12 tulips growing out front. And I cut, well, let's see how many I cut. I cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I cut 8 of them and I put them in my kitchen. And now I'm wondering how many are still in my garden. And the reason that I'm wondering this is because we have a neighbor that we like to cheer up when he's not feeling so good. And right now I was thinking it might be nice to give him some tulips, sign of spring coming back. So I'm wondering if we have 3 more in my garden to be able to give him. So I had 12 in my garden. 8 of them are in this vase, and I want to know how many are left because I want to know if there's enough to give to a neighbor. So here's what we're going to do. On your whiteboard or paper, I want you to draw a blank number bond, just like this. Just a blank number bond. And if you're using the colors, you're going to want to put that red one up at the top for your whole, the one that we have the most of. And then I'm going to unfold this piece of paper because on the other half I have my problem written down. And we're going to look at my problem and we're going to try to find all of these pieces to our number bond, okay? Remember that this top piece is the whole. It's the number that I started off with originally. And these are some of the pieces of that whole. So here we go. Here's my wordy word problem, my story problem with lots going on. Now let's read it again, and this time let's read it really slowly, and let's see if we can put any of these pieces into our pie. All right, let's see. It says, I have a garden with 12 tulips. Does anybody hear anything in there that tells us how many tulips my garden has? I think you're thinking what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that our whole is that number 12. I'm going to circle that number 12 right there in my word problem to help me not forget that, because that's a really important piece. And I already know exactly where that number goes, but I'm gonna wait to put it into my number bond until I get to the very end and make sure that I understand the problem completely. All right, it says, I cut 8 of them for my vase at home. How many are still in my garden? All right, so one of the other numbers that I saw was the number 8. And that's part of the 12, right? Because those are still from my garden. That's part of this number. But is it the whole number? Is it all 12 of them? Nope, it's just a part. So I'm gonna circle that in another color so that I can keep track of it. And then it says, so I have a whole and I have a part. I have a whole and I have a part. So what am I missing? I'm missing that other part, aren't I? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start plugging those numbers into our number bond. All right, so I'm gonna put that number 12 in the top box because that's the whole. That's the number that I had all the way at the very beginning. The very first number that I saw was that I had 12 in my garden. And the next number I heard was 8. And those are the ones that are sitting here in my blue vase. Okay, so here's my numbers, 12 and 8. Now I have to figure out, how am I going to get my other piece? Take a second and think about what strategies you know that could help you get from this number to that number. We're starting with one number and we need to get to another number. What kind of things could we do? All right, if you're thinking what I'm thinking a couple things. I'm thinking one strategy we could do is to use a picture. I'm thinking another strategy we could use is kind of like start with get to on our hundreds chart. We could start at the smaller number and get to the bigger number, or we could start at the bigger number and get to the smaller number. We could use our fingers to help us. Does anybody else have any other strategies? I'd love to hear them. If you wanted to comment in, you're welcome to tell me what other strategy you had. All right, so I'm gonna start with get to, and I'm gonna start with the smaller number, and I'm gonna get to the bigger number. Sometimes I think it's easier to count forwards than it is to count backwards, especially as a kindergartner. So let's start with the lower number and get to the higher number. And each time we say a number, let's put up a finger just to help ourselves keep track of how many numbers we're counting. So what comes after 8? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many numbers did we put up? 4. All right, let's plug that number in. And then let's check by writing a number sentence and see if it makes sense. Okay, so we put that number in. Now I'm gonna write one of these right here. I'm gonna pick one and see if that makes sense. All right, so let's see. Let's do our part plus part equals whole. Does part 4 plus part 8 equal our whole 12? Okay. So one way I can double check this is by drawing a quick picture, using dots, using whatever you want. All right, let's see. 4, 2, 3, 4 plus 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just used quick dots above mine. And I'm going to count all those dots and make sure that I got 12. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like I got 12. I think we did a good job, you guys. All right, so today you're going to be using number bonds to help yourself with a story problem. And in your assignment, you're actually going to get to make up your story problem. You're going to get to tell your own story. You're going to put fish in different places on your screen, and you're going to be making this number bond, and you're going to get to tell a story about those fish. So I hope that you guys, oh wait, we didn't answer the big question. The big question was, do I have enough to give 3 to a neighbor? My missing piece was 4. Is there enough? Here's 4. Is there enough to give 3 of them to a neighbor? I think there is. John's going to be super happy because John has been down in the dumps with all this cold weather. He's pretty old, and I think that some tulips might really cheer him up. So thank you guys for helping me solve my math problem today, and I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with for your story problems. Talk to you next week.